This is a quick discussion on three competing virtualization technologies. The oldest and the most prevalent is virtual machines that can be found just about anywhere, either in data centers as well as on cloud. They were invented many years ago and they were created to take advantage of the fact that physical dedicated hardware, you could run multiple applications on it without having a fundamental performance impact on it. And the reason was applications would have times when they were not using the hardware underneath it, and so that hardware could be shared between several applications. Several applications could cohabitate together on the same piece of hardware. So, with that observation in mind, virtual machines and virtualization was invented and is fairly prevalent. It's refined, it's highly orchestrated and automated, and it serves at this point of time, it is probably one of the most well developed computing concepts in the current landscape. Um, More recently, containers have come into play, and that's been in the last decade, and containers have made huge advances. Containers virtualize also. They are also virtual entities, but they virtualize at a different level. They don't virtualize at a hardware level, they virtualize at an OS level. So the application, its required libraries, its runtime environment, as well as a small piece of OS kernel are all packaged together so that it can be a self-contained unit and it can run on any piece of hardware. So therefore, it's highly portable. And that portability is what was the first thing that made it extremely popular because now what you could do is develop code and run it just about everywhere. Before that, people would run into, they would do develop code in a dev test environment, and when they moved it into production, it wouldn't work because there were differences in the runtime environment. And now, with the runtime environment being exactly the same, whether it's a dev test or pre-prod or prod, the problem goes away. So the portability of containers made them very popular to start with, and it started with DevSecOps, DevOps. Um, but also with the advent of Kubernetes, which is a container orchestration technology, and it's extremely popular and it's open source. Um, what also happened is Kubernetes gave it a very highly available, resilient um, backbone. So that made containers even more popular. And as a result of it, it's very useful for distributed workloads. It's very useful for DevOps. It's very useful for those workloads that are not finicky about the underlying hardware requirements. Serverless is the next generation of compute um, virtualization, and it's become very popular in the last few years. Serverless is basically paying for the compute cycles that you use. So when the code is not running, you don't pay for it. It's also virtualization at the end of the day, but its application is different. It's very useful for those workloads that have peaks, that have unpredictability, that require to be scaled, and yet you don't want to pay a lot of money for it. You want it to be cost efficient. And that's Lambda in AWS has become extremely popular with enterprises and business for those workloads that have those kinds of characteristics. It's again, serverless is very cost efficient and it's highly scalable and has very few operational headaches because server management is done by AWS. So serverless technology is the next generation of virtualization. It doesn't quite compete with either the VMs, which tend to be workload that have fixed requirements in terms of compute, mission critical in nature by and large. It doesn't compete with containers, which are distributed workloads, and it's more in the space where you want to deal with workloads that have a high degree of unpredictability and scalability requirements are extremely high. So thank you very much. Hope we get an opportunity to work with you to especially use both the containers and serverless technologies for solving your business problem. Thank you.